Right, welcome back. This is Code.org CS Discoveries, Unit 2, Lesson 11. So this is actually in the second chapter after HTML. This chapter deals with CSS. So Lesson 11, Styling Elements with CSS. So the overview of this lesson continues the introduction to CSS style properties, this time focusing more on non-text elements. The class begins by investigating and modifying the new CSS styles on a Deserts of the World page. Afterwards, everyone applies this new knowledge to their personal websites. All right. So, layout and style. Look through. I said deserts. I meant desserts. All right. Layout and style. Look through the web page below for new styles. Open the style sheet. So let's open up our style sheet. So we're going to click on style.css. With your partner, discuss which parts of the CSS code you think are making the page appear different. What makes the entire page blue? All right. So if we look through these selectors, we've got body, H1, H2, image, P. So if I had to guess, I would guess that this background color, light blue, is making the background blue. How are the images positioned to the left of all of the other elements? If we look at our image selector, we can see, looks like the only thing that involves something left is this float left, so that's probably why. And what made the image corners rounded? So if we look, float left, width, margin, border color, so that's the color, border width, border style, border radius. Okay, we'll have to take a look, see what we think could be making those image borders rounded. All right, so go ahead and press finish. All right, background color. Find the code in the style sheet that is making the background of the entire page light blue. Change the code to make the page a different color. Try and change the background color of just the paragraph. So let's go to our style.css. We're going to change our background color. Let's change it to, let's change it to Deserts of the World. What kind of color do we want? Maybe a cauliflower blue, maybe? Let's try that. Ooh, that looks nice. Or a cornflower, not cauliflower. Cornflower blue. All right, I'm going to go with that one. I like that one. And then it says, try and change the background color of just the paragraph. So I'm going to go to the paragraphs, and I'm going to put in a new element, background dash color. Let's change the background color of just the paragraphs to maybe a beige. Sure, we'll do beige. Now I don't necessarily like that, but that's what it wants us to do. So go ahead and press finish. Whoops. There's one thing that I forgot in that last one. I'm actually going to go back just so that I fix it correctly. Style.css semicolon after beige. I like to forget that. All right, body styling. The body element is a special element that wraps all of the visible content on a web page. Because everything that you see is inside this tag, any rule set that you create for the body element will apply to every element on the page, unless the element itself has a rule that contradicts it. This is useful for establishing a baseline style for everything on your page. So an example would be this rule set would make all text in your web page blue and centered. So inside of this body we have text align center and color equals blue. So that would make everything inside of the body centered and blue. All right. So the body element, find the body rule set in the style sheet and discuss with a partner what you think will happen if you add text, align, color, or other text properties to the body rule set. Try out some different properties to check your guess. So if I go to my CSS style, I go to body. Now, if I have my paragraph background color equaling beige, but my body background color is cornflower blue, the paragraph one overrides it because it's obviously beige. So if I add text align or color, so if I do text align left, if I do text align right, it'll probably stay left because my paragraph is already left, right? So I think anything underneath it might supersede it, but we could look. So let's add in, let's try text align. Text align, let's try left. Okay, everything stayed the same, right? Did it? Yep. So everything stayed the same. Whoops. If I add in that text align left. Now if I added in color, if I add in color for beige, it changes everything in the body to beige, the color of the text. So that changed my H2 and my paragraph, but it did not change my H1s, right? So why is that? Okay, if we look, I've got my desserts of the world is an H1, this is an H2, origin is an H3. Okay, so there's no H3 style in here, so that one's just subject to anything in the body. Okay, my H2 has a color that says saddle brown, and so does my H1. So those both, my H1 here and my H2 here, stayed the same color. So if anything below it has a style or has a property, the body will not end up changing it. Okay, so I'm going to delete this beige because that's really hard to look at. Alright, so we found that out on that level. Let's go ahead and press finish. Alright, borders. Find the rules in the style sheet that set the borders color and the width. Change the color and the width of your borders. So I'm going to go to my style.css. I go to my image border, and I'm going to change, it wants to change the color and the width. So I'm going to change the color from saddle brown to, whoops, border color to maybe that nice cake there, let's change it to a chocolate color. Alright, so there's what border color being chocolate looks like. Looks kind of interesting. And then it wants us to change the width of the borders. So it's got the width right now as 4 pixels. Let's change it to 6. So a little bit more bold. Okay. Try out some different border styles. Choose from dotted, dashed, solid, and double. So if we look here, we've got a border style that says solid. Looks like we can do dotted, dashed, solid, or double. What's double? Sounds interesting. Ooh, I like that. That looks kind of sleek. Okay, so we can check those out. Put a border on another type of page element, such as one of the headings or the paragraphs. I don't know if I'm going to like the look of this, but we'll still practice it. Let's put one on our H2s. It wants us to add in a border. Okay. Let's add in a border color. Let's make it black. The border, we want the border width next to be medium, or we can change it to actual pixels. So let's do 4 pixels. Border style is next. Ooh, we've got all sorts of different ones here. Let's do whatever this no, don't like that. Actually, I do like that, but this page, not good. Let's do groove. We'll just leave it and we'll fix it later. Groove, and then we want to do our border radius is going to be 7 pixels. So it gives it that slight pixelated edge over here on the side. If I brought that up to 20, okay, it makes it pretty rounded. Maybe even 25 will almost make it entirely rounded. Okay, so I've got that border there. Would be nice to be able to kind of cut it off where it's in that space, but that might be something that we find out how to do later. Okay, so I had to add in all of those different things: border color, width, style, radius. Don't have to add in all those things as long as I have the border style and the border width. I'm pretty sure you would get a border to appear. You need whatever the width of it is. Actually, even just the width, you might get one. But so add in those different things and go ahead and press finish. Alright, border radius. Look at the border radius property inside your image rule set. Discuss with your partner what you think this property does. So we kind of discussed that at the end there. Try different values for the border radius and decide which one you like best. This one I did in that last assignment. I liked it at about 25 because then it made it even more round. So the higher the number, the more rounded the corners will be. So you can go ahead and mess around with that one as much as you'd like, but I'm not going to waste any more time on that. So if you would like to mess around with that more, go ahead and press pause. But we are going on in the video. So we're on lesson 11, level 8, or puzzle 8. This is talking about floats. So look at the float property inside your image rule set. So we go to styles, go to our image rule set, and this float one is the one that we're looking at. Discuss with your partner what you think this property does. Change the value from left to right. So for those of you that don't know, it's just saying that it wants that image to float pretty much as far to the left or the right as it can. Okay, so if we look up here, the float property makes an element float, meaning that the elements that come after it all flow around it. If the float value is left, the element will float to the left, and the elements after it will show up on its right. If the float value is right, the elements will float to the right, and the elements after it will show up on its left. Okay? So you see here, this one floats. They all float to the side. Oh, I didn't even know that we had more. Okay, so they can only float so far to the side because we've got other items after them. So this one, this paragraph is pushing this one all the way out to that side. This one's pushing it only out to this far, and then that's this far, that's this far. Okay, so go ahead and press finish there. We move that all to the right. Width and height. Find the property in the style sheet that controls the width of the images. So we're going to go to style.css, go to images, and we're talking about this line right here. Okay, change the width of the images to be larger or smaller. So I'm going to change them to be a little bit larger. I'm going to change them to 400 pixels. Okay, so now all my images are about that size. Kind of messed up a couple of mine, so I might bring it down a little bit. I'm going to go to 300. Maybe 325. Kind of want them to be a little bit bigger. No, still too big. Do 300. Okay. Changes the width of the images to be larger or smaller. Create a new rule with a height property to control the height of the image. All right. So underneath our width, let's add in height. And let's change that to 300 as well, so that we have nice boxed images. Oh my, that does not look good. Looks good on that one, looks decent on that one, but these ones look pretty stretched. Honestly, they don't look too bad, it just takes a little of adjusting to do. Let's change this to 250. That looks better. Alright, with the width property in the P rule set, use the width property in the P rule set to change the width of your paragraphs. Alright, so I'm going to add in at the bottom of my paragraph here a width change. Let's go with 100 and just see what we got. Okay, that's pretty small. Maybe 500. So 500 might be too big. So I'm thinking that with our float in our pictures, as soon as we get to a certain number, it's unable to float so far because it's running into other things. So we can only have that be so big. So if I leave it at 100, that's what I have for my pixels. As far as my paragraphs go, it's very interesting. Okay, maybe 150, see what we get. It's all pretty nice. 175 maybe, see if we can get them a little wider. Okay, I actually don't mind that. I'm going to stick with 200. That looks nice. Alright, go ahead and press finish. Alright, margin. Margins specify how much space should be around an element. Find the margin property in the image rule set. So we're going to go to styles.css. We've got our margin right here. It says 10 pixels. Change the margin to be larger and discuss the effect with a partner. So let's change it to, let's just double it and see what we get. Should we change it to 15? Just drastically change it. Okay, what do we think we're changing here with this margin? Okay, change the margin to be larger and discuss the effect of the partner. Choose an element type and give it a margin as well. Okay, so if I change the margin, and I'm just changing the margin in general, I'm not changing really too much else. What do we think? What do we think we're changing? Okay. That's at 20. Okay, that's at 15. Okay, let's take a look. The margin property determines how much space will be around the image. Most of the time you will define in the margin in pixels. You can read more about that on that website. So if I put in 15 pixels, that's determining how much space is around each image. There's 10 pixels of space around this image. Okay? So if I were to do that with, let's say, our paragraph tag, and add in a margin, and I make it also 10 pixels, okay, that kind of brought it off of this, we'll just put it in quotes, that wall or that side of that page there. If I change it to 15, it's going to indent it even a little bit more. Okay, so all of my paragraph is going to have pretty much this box around it, this invisible box that's 15 pixels big. If I were to change that to, say, 25, okay, it gets even bigger. Alright, so that's what margin does. Go ahead and press finish when you decide on one that you like. So, layout properties. There are many properties that help set the styles of your website. So background color, border width, border style, just general width of an element, height of the element, our float, and our margins. Alright, and you can read about what each one does there or look into it even more at that W3 Schools link. Okay. Alright, our personal website. Try out some of these new CSS properties on your personal website. Add styling of your choice to your website and be sure to use at least 3 new CSS properties. So if you go back to that list, we've got all the border ones, our background, our width, height, float, margin, all sorts of ones that we can use today. It's actually got them all listed right here. Okay. We're encouraged to use more than 3 though. Explore additional CSS properties and add them to your page. So I am going to, so on the last time that we did this, I showed which ones to add in and I went through them individually. Today I want you to do them on your own independently. So I'm not going to show you how to add those in. Use this list up here, add them in, use your tab key a lot, use your arrow keys a lot, reference any of the old lessons or the old levels that we've used, any old lessons that you'd like, and add in, what I would like you to do is add in 5 of the CSS properties out of this list. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, there are 8 of them for you to pick from. I would like you to use 5 of those 8. And then I would like you to either, if you're submitting this electronically, I would like you to screenshot your CSS code and show me which ones you've added in. Make sure that you screenshot your code and it refreshed and saved so that I can see that it's your website that is making those changes. Do not do those as separate images. So if you're screenshotting something using the snipping tool, press new, and you are going to screenshot all of this at once. It has to be one image, it can't be 2 separate ones. Okay? And then you can save that somewhere and submit it to Google Classroom. So if you're submitting it electronically, that's what you'll need to do. If you are in class and complete this assignment, you can come up to Mr. Clark's desk and show him, and you will get credit for this level. So that is CSS Discoveries, Unit 2, Chapter 2, Lesson 11, Styling Elements with CSS.